Hi guys, let's continue with the topic of just call it the AH model, okay? Just instead of mispronouncing the names and just call it the AH for the two guys, Ajian and Howitt. The AH model we're talking about, it's been saying that we should the whole business, the entire world, the economy has been moving from creative destruction to creative evolution. Then you may say, well, what are the examples? Examples are many. We can talk about this later. In fact, later we'll be talking about one counter example, like ASML and NVIDIA. Those are the modern monopoly examples. But when you talk about the theory, you can't just using some fact because pretty much everybody can find some example to supporting their theory. So you have to um, using more reasoning um, to convince people. So here are the reasoning why the creative evolution will be largely by and large. I'm not saying that the monopoly will disappear and obsolescence will disappear. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that by and large, if you look at the big picture, if you look at what they call the stylized fact, then the trend is clear that we are having more and more creative evolution than creative destruction. The reason, I can think of two reasons. I might come up with later because new ideas basically come to me every day. But here, so far, I've been thinking about the two reasons. Number one is the same old law of what's the so-called diminishing marginal returns in economics. So the easiest way is that when you have a pizza, okay, the first slide is great, and then the tenth slide, tenth slide, will be more than 10 pieces of pizza, and you feel regret. So that basically says that if you have too much, if you have too abundance of something, regardless of how nice it is at first, in the end you will regret. Okay, so this is an easy way, like kind of a street smart way of describing this. So economists have been saying, especially the endogenous growth economists, that they've been saying that physical capital will have a diminishing return. True, I'm not arguing that. However, very few people mention that knowledge, um, human capital, and innovations, they also have a diminishing returns. Means that having once starting from 1942, let's starting from Schumpeter's time to 1992, 50 years later, we have a much innovations accumulated. So the result is that the same the same fucking old laws that applies to the innovations too. If you have a you think it's impossible to have something called too many innovations. Yes, there will be. Okay, because if you have too many innovations at the first, you will be happy because it's transformative, because it's revolutionary, because it's paradigm shifting. However, as time goes on, 50 years later, you accumulated so many innovations, then inevitably the next innovation will be having lower utility, lower value, for the same reason that we are talking about a diminishing marginal return. So that's why. Uh, so when we have it at so in this case, when we have too many innovations, the next innovations, regardless how valuable, you know, especially the supplier side, the innovators. If you listen to the entrepreneurs, they would say that's another revolution. The truth is, you know, at least in the society, in the society in a whole, and then they will perceive that as less valuable. Why? Because a lot of the old innovations will get by. Most people will get by with the old innovations. That's why even the supplier side always say this is another revolution, and not everybody believe that because they say I'm fine doing that what I'm doing now. You know, think about this using this classic example, the horse dragon, horse wagon used to be, you know, from a horse wagon to the first model of Ford T, black T model. That's a revolution. However, from a gas car to electric car, that's it's much less impact, right? Because most people they're just happy with the gas car. Plus, there's some extra cost to buy a Tesla, right? So that's the thing. That's the first reason that the diminishing marginal return applies to innovation. Okay. The second reason is that the stickiness of a personal preferences. Okay, this is something to do with So basically, I remember that there is a movie called Die Hard. I never watched it because I don't like this action movies. So I didn't watch it, but I remember the title. So the same title applies to the innovations. Some old habit, human habit, die hard. You know, they're much they die much slower than some technical upgrade. You see that the AI chatbot upgraded every a few months, every several months, right? So that comes very fast. However, human preferences, personal preferences, die much harder. So they will stick with the old one instead of switching to the new one. So that's two things. In fact, if you think about this, the stickiness of a personal preferences will contribute. It's a part of the diminishing return because you know what? All the innovations share one features. They are aiming at making our life easier, cheaper, faster, and happier. So has been doing after doing this one over another, human beings actually gain a power. Every innovation make human more powerful. So in the meantime, they have gained something called economists called agency power, because they have the final say. you know if the innovations, I like it, I don't like it, I hate it. So this kind of thing, agency power, there's never seen that before. The more innovations we have, make the human more powerful, also make them possessing more power to choosing as the final choosers over the innovation. So those two things adding together make that the prediction of we will have a creative destruction. A lot of the older stuff will die overnight. That won't happen. So that's the idea. Let's stop here.